Hi, folks. You're with Tacitus today, your pushback channel, and thank you for joining this live stream. In this essay, I'd like to talk about the issues of world food supply. And we've all heard the bullshit, crazy propaganda coming out of Klaus Schwab and the World Economic Forum and all these idiots that say we've got to eat insects and that sort of thing. And a lot of the big media mastheads, they've been pushing this crap as well. In fact, one of them was in Sydney recently, where the editor, a fantastically rich guy who married into money and never has to worry about money in his lifetime, is telling the rest of us we've got to eat insects. Yeah, right. Now, I was talking to an Indian business guy recently, and the subject came up of eating everyone. Could everyone on the planet eat a first world lifestyle? Now, you're looking at something like, say, out of the 7.5 billion people on the planet, there's not many more than a billion that could be eating what you would call a first world diet. And when I say first world diet, I'm talking about meat most nights, if not every night, or fish perhaps, but fresh vegetables, clean water, and so on. So that's a first world diet. Now, the idea of getting up out of bed in the morning and you have your Bircher muesli and then the freshly squeezed orange juice, then going on to maybe I don't know, a piece of toast or something, and then freshly brewed coffee and sitting down, relaxing, looking at the news online. That's a lifestyle and a diet that very few people have. And then you have lunch, and then you maybe have a steak for dinner again, fresh vegetables and maybe fresh salad and so on. That's just doesn't happen around the world. More than 6 billion with a B people aren't having anywhere near that sort of diet. Now, this Indian businessman was saying that he's got a lot of, there are hundreds of millions of subsistence starving peasants in his country. Not that he thinks much of them because of the Hindu caste system, but he was saying, well, the solution to everything isn't necessarily to grow more food or be more efficient or to eat or not eat insects. The solution is that everything gets shared around the world, so it's all even. So everyone is eating effectively the same diet. And he sort of said, well, if we do that, then everyone can have a livable diet, and it just means that the white folks who've been having it good for so long, they've got to give up their steak. And so what if they eat insects? If the peasants down in the middle of Africa are eating insects, then everyone's on the same thing. And he was sort of claiming this is like a level playing field and sort of stuff. So I tried to point out, well, the Western countries are very productive, scientifically advanced. They're very organised, very disciplined, very focused, whereas the dirt poor countries of Africa, or even India for that matter, are quite the opposite. So why should the very efficient and industrious countries not eat better than the countries that fuck everything up that they touch? And he said, oh, well, that's not right. You've got to be white to see the world that way. And so, the people that produce nothing. So, okay, well, you believe in communism then, effectively, or certainly socialism, where everything's produced has to be shared equally. But should that, because this is an upper caste Hindu guy, should that apply to you? Oh, no, not to me. It's just to them. It should apply to them, not to me. And so classic college kid type attitude, except the guy is a businessman, I would say, in his mid-40s. So he was talking like a college kid, very, very infantile sort of grasp of the world and responsibility, which a lot of Indians have, by the way. So here's the issue. As soon as the diet of very poor countries, very tribal third world countries, as soon as their diet is improved, let's say they manage to stop having civil wars and they manage to manage their crops properly and not have one tribe blocking the dam so the water doesn't get out, so that the crop fail, all these sorts of things. If they have a better diet, then they immediately and dramatically increase the population. The population increase is geometric, seriously. 2, 4, 16, and it's insane how quickly now Ethiopia, their population, when they had a good run of aid, which brought a lot of food in there, their population doubled in 20 years. In India, that was already populations in the billions, their population of India doubled. I mean, from 650 million, 660 million to 1.35 billion, and it did that in 40 years. I mean, holy guacamole, that's massive, and that's because the peasants, their lot improved, and there were better health measures in terms of mortality, but the main thing was better food, or more food. So they had a reliable supply of food, and there weren't the deaths from starvation and all these people running around so emaciated that they couldn't procreate anyway. So they've got more food, and the minute more food arrives on the table, then that's it. They're procreating as quickly as they can. And they've got this view that like owning animals, or the more cows you have, the richer you are, the more children you have. It means that the more successful your family is. So everyone's desperately trying to have children to show how successful they are, when in fact it's not success at all. These are primarily food handouts from international agencies and the like. So so they're not they're not producing more, and they're not outproducing their population growth. It's the Malthusian trap. So whereas in the West typically was either producing far more than the population growth, or as economic growth slowed, population growth slowed. And you see it in the West now when the cost of living goes up, which it is rather dramatically over the last 20 odd years. When the cost of living goes up, people have less or have fewer children. And it's different from the peasants that are imported from the third world, who are living hand to mouth off the land anyway. As soon as they arrive in the West, they go, wow, people are paying me to sit at home and do nothing. I'm going to have more children. So, they've got 3 wives, and they have 15 children between them, these sort of things. And then the idiotic Western government brings these people in and then pays them, gives them government housing and gives them food stamps and all that sort of stuff. So then they have even more children. So, but typically the white Westerners, when the cost of living goes up, the equation automatically comes to mind. Well, I can't give any children I bring into the world, I can't give them a good enough start. So I'll have 1 child instead of 2, or 2 instead of 3, and so on, because then there's more resources to spend on the children or child that you do have, thereby increasing their chances of success in life, getting a better education, that sort of thing. So, but coming back to the food supply, and the globalists are clearly stealing as much Western wealth from the middle and working class as they can, and putting it around into China or India or wherever. Now they're doing that without our consent, without our agreement. They're just screwing us, and we're the plebs, and they don't give a shit. But this moving wealth around isn't really achieving much. Again, the sending wealth to India, for example, all stolen from the West, but sending wealth to India, all it's done is double their population in 40 years. Per capita, they're worse off now than they were. And the same with African countries. They're not better off. Their population skyrockets as soon as food is reliably put on the table. So until that's controlled, I can't see how food can be evenly distributed, because they will chronically overproduce in terms of population growth if the more food they get, which means then more and more food has to be sent there, and more, because it has to be taken from somewhere else. So unless there's going to be a large increase in productivity in terms of food production, and I'm not ruling that out, new technology and fertilizers perhaps, until that's addressed, and the propensity of peasants to procreate wildly as soon as there's a regular food supply, until those are addressed, I can't see how food or diet can be imposed on a centrally controlled basis. And I think that's where we're heading. I think it's going to be, no, you can't eat meat, you're not allowed to. You can have insects 3 times a week, and other than that, you're going to have scrubbed potatoes, and if you don't like it, too fucking bad. And I see this is how it's going. If you look at the contemptuous, sneering attitude that the American elites already have for the American populace, I think we're getting to that. Without representative democracy, without that, and with the political market being shut down by the globalists, that is, all the main parties have pretty much exactly the same policies. So we need to reintroduce the political market. We need to ensure that the democratic elections of the candidates chosen by the people are elected, and we need to have a free and independent media. And until those things are addressed, I think it's inevitable that we're going to go through a centrally planned food distribution, and we'll be told what we're allowed to eat and how much of it and when, and that's not a good place to be. You've been with Tastas today, your Pushback channel, and thank you for listening.